The day has arrived where Barcelona can really determine their fate in the Champions League and even going all the way. But what if we play against Inter Milan with a back three? And in this video, I'm going to explain everything why I think so. And this is going to elevate Barcelona even more if we would do this. As always, do subscribe to the channel. It's going to help us a lot to get this family to grow bigger. We upload weekly Barcelona content, but let's get right into this what if video. If you watched the first video, you would know that only two of the three centre backs would build up, where Benjamin Pavard would go over to the touchline, ultimately allowing Darmian to go forward, where Barcelona could easily then press with a front three. And yes, I'm suggesting a 3-4-3. The problem is then maybe Frenkie and Pedri will be outnumbered, but we could easily have Ferran Torres defend in the midfield, which is something Barcelona already does. The problem is, are we going to start Ferran Torres and play without a 10, or are we going to let Ferran Torres come off the bench and start Dani Olmo in that false 9 position? I would start Ferran Torres, and it's going to make sense later on why I would start Ferran, because the key here would actually be to have these wingbacks who can press together, because we know how Inter Milan likes to play the ball into their wingbacks. But at the same time, you also have a back three that will give you defensive cover if anything should happen. And therefore, the likes of Rafinha and Lamine Yamal now also have less space to cover, but has the opportunity to be more effective, as they could literally go into a man-to-man press. While you also have maybe one of the pivots, let's say Frenkie de Jong, who could patrol the ball, who's often played by Inter Milan, into their front two. So this could cover them, and this also would allow Kovacic to stay back and not come into these positions, which we know he's often forced to defend. So you can see here that we can have a complete system change without even changing our tactics. So that pressure would ultimately force them along. Well, that's where Ronald Araujo comes in. I know I've been very critical of Ronald Araujo because I still believe he doesn't have the Barca caliber, but his physicality in the air for these long balls are going to be very pivotal in what FC Barcelona does. And that can actually keep Inter Milan playing in their own half. But more importantly, I also think that Ronald Araujo is going to be good for these situations where Inter does go long and they have the man in behind, and Ronald Araujo's speed is going to come in clutch in those type of moments. The problem, however, would be this high line. How do you do a high line with a back three? Well, we can also do that high line with a back five, and discipline is needed. This formation do allow us to have the physical ability and the aerial ability as well as the speed of Ronald Araujo, but at the same time, you do not sacrifice Kubarsi and Inigo, who's going to give you that verticality. So I think this system will be a huge problem to deal with, and I don't even think we need a high line, as we will put so much pressure also with the counter pressing. But how exactly are we going to defend with a back five in open play? Are we going to stick with the back five? Are we going to push Gerard Martin maybe a little bit higher up the pitch to hide his defensive frailties? However, I still believe that Barcelona should do this back five because of the wingbacks of Inter Milan. They provide an awful lot of width for these teams, for this team in particular, in open play. But a 5-3-2 should be the way, so that Lamine Yamal and Rafinha don't have a lot of defensive responsibility, but at the same time, we're going to be absolutely dangerous on the transition. I am absolutely sure that what I'm saying right now in this video is making an awful lot of sense to you guys. And if it does, I want you to do something for me. Please share the hell out of this video and let us make it go viral for not only other fans to see this, but also for Hansi Flick. Let's see if we can do that. I honestly doubt that the front two would put too much pressure, so we don't have to worry about Ronald Araujo's ball-playing ability. But Rafinha inverting being so central will allow Gerard Martin or even Hector Ford to go up high. And that is going to create a space for Inigo to move in much wider, because he doesn't have to worry. Araujo is carrying that space, ultimately drawing Barella out, which is going to create space for Rafinha in which he will thrive. And we saw in the last video that I said even Frenkie can drop into these areas drawing that player, which is something Inter Milan struggle with very, very dearly. But as you can see, nothing really changes because we already have a back three, we already have a double pivot, and I don't think this 3-4-3 situation would really hinder that. The question, however, is how will Lamine Yamal be playing in a system like this, seeing that he likes to be on the touchline most of the game as well? Like we said earlier, this system kind of benefits Rafinha naturally because he's inverting with Gerard Martin keeping the width there, with Inigo having the defensive cover if needed when the team's in transition. But is Lamine Yamal going to be comfortable playing in this position right here? And I would actually suggest that he would swap positions with Jules Koundé, where Koundé can come into the half space, which is now in turn kind of going to create this 5 against 5 situation against the backline of Inter. That would put this midfield in a situation where they kind of have to keep their positions to not be dragged out, which in turn is going to create an awful lot of space for the likes of Pedri to be moving in, for the likes of Frenkie de Jong to move into these spaces right here, and they will just boss the game, which is going to even give us more control. Like I said, the center backs can do the same. Kubarsi can go there, and we don't even have to be worried about the transition because we do have a back three and include Frenkie and Pedri there as well. Not even Lautaro and his strike partner sitting on the double pivot is going to help because the movement is just going to be too much. And I'm now going to explain to you why exactly did I say that I would prefer to start Olmo over Ferran Torres as a false nine in this position, because in this case we will definitely be needing the movement. Because the midfield is going to be so static, Thuram or whoever plays with Martinez cannot even sit on Frenkie and Pedri because they can just easily move into these areas right here and just receive the ball out wide, which is in turn going to maybe pull out somebody like Barella out of his position, which is going to in turn open up the half space, and which is going to of course mean trouble for Inter Milan. And this is actually where I prefer Dani Olmo to rather come into these areas right here, pulling the centre backs out of position, where Rafinha can do the same runs in behind that Ferran Torres normally does. And Olmo is great in between the lines. He can even vacate his position completely in order to help out Frenkie and Pedri, right? Where he can turn and just easily circulate the ball, and I don't think they would even be able to stop us in this regard. But like we saw in the previous video, Inter Milan, when this normally happens, they have their front two come across and shift as a team in order to cut out the holes and the spaces that might be generated. However, us having a back three actually allows us to have Kubarsi on the far side in this situation right here, where he can easily distribute the ball out to Lamine Yamal, who ironically is going to be in a one-on-one situation. And Kubarsi can run through the half spaces in order to create a 2-on-1 numerical advantage for Barcelona. However, guys, I'm absolutely dying to know what you guys think about this system, because I don't even think we have to change anything in order to implement this system. We can have the same tactics, the same movements. However, we're going to tick all the boxes. It's going to make our press better. We're going to defend the transitions better. Pedri and Frenkie will be able to control the game better. The movement of Rafinha and Lamine, everything will just be better. As always, guys, please do subscribe to the channel. It's going to help us a lot to get this family to grow. And like I said, let me know what do you guys think, because I am absolutely dying to know what you guys think, because I've said this once and I'm going to say it again. I do feel like Barcelona has the most intelligent fan base ever, because I do read everything. But like I said, please let's share this video and make it go viral.